Hi guys, it's Marguerite with Wreath by Marguerite again here today for another tutorial. This is for a pixie wreath. This is a wreath I'm making for my shop. I have a bunch of shows coming up, so it's time to get more new product made and put in the shop as well as on Etsy. Today I'm doing a pixie style wreath, and it has a little bit of a different element on it. It has designer ribbon. That's this ribbon with the oranges on it that's interspersed throughout the wreath in ribbon tails as well as part of the ribbon. I just thought it was a really fun design idea, so why not? What makes it designer is that it's double-sided. It has the oranges on one side and then the orange ribbon that matches both this 1.5 inch ribbon and this 2.5 inch ribbon. So join me and follow along while we create this beautiful orange themed wreath. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm going to show you all the things that are needed for this wreath. This is the sign. It is a metal sign. I have already attached cable tie mounts on the back. I got those from Amazon. There's rapid fuse glue behind them to hold them on to the sign. And then a little bit of hot glue around the edges to put on to help it while it cures. The rapid fuse cures. Hot glue is not going to do any good as far as holding the cable tie mount on permanently, because if you get extreme heat or extreme cold weather, it's going to pop off from just hot glue. You need a super glue, and I use DAP rapid fuse. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to put pipe cleaners on the back of the sign that blend in with the mesh, so that if a customer has a door with a glass insert, the back of the wreath looks decent too. We don't want a bunch of string hanging everywhere and all sorts of different colors going on the back of the wreath that don't match the front, which makes it very busy and a whole lot less appealing. So that's the sign. This is a, how about this sign? Using my cutting mat to measure. This is an 8-inch round. And then this is a 10-inch raised frame work form is what they're called. See how there's elevation to the rings? And it has all of the tinsel ties. These are called tinsel ties rather than pipe cleaners attached. This elevated frame is how you get elevation and more fluff in your wreath. So there's that. I'm using this deco mesh. It is a plastic and fabric compilation. These pieces are cut at 20 inches in length, and this is a 10-inch style deco mesh, and we'll be curling that with a woodland ruffle for the frame. And then these are the 3 ribbons that will be going on the ribbon tails that will be going on top of the mesh. Once we get to the end, we're going to embellish the wreath itself with this little orange pick and a bow that I'm going to make during this video. So to give you an idea of the basic bows I use for a pixie wreath, which is what this is. Okay, so I'm going to move all this extra stuff out of the way. And then this and another pipe cleaner will be necessary for the bow. So I'm going to stick those up there so I don't forget. Getting a little hydrated for this. You need scissors. I use a chip clip for holding things, wire clippers, needle nose, and in this case we're going to need a glue gun. Is it getting warm? Yes, it's getting warm. Extra piece of glue. I may or may not use the wood dowel. If you don't have a wood dowel, use a pencil or a pen. It's just going to depend. Now, versus what's called a storm door wreath, which you always want to have the curl facing down. In the woodland ruffle, you have the curl facing up. And I usually put something in the center to hold it down and not move, because we're going to make 4 rolls on each end. So it's going to go inward like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is striped, so it's easy to keep it centered. Turn it around. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once I finish the second ruffle, I'm going to take this weight off and I'm going to gather it up the center of that center stripe. That makes it easy for me to see where my center is. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to place it horizontally in the tinsel tie. So I'm going to tighten this up 1 to 2 times. And there you go. So I'm going to do them every other. It's just one of my idiosyncrasies. So I'm going to skip this one and go to the next one. This is roll side up, curl side up. Roll it 4 times. You can make tight or loose curls. The whole idea behind this is you're hiding the cut edges. All mesh frays, but whatever you can do to make it stay pretty and be pretty and not fray will help you with that process. 2, 3, 4 rolls. Take that off of there. Sometimes I use my phone. Gather it up the center of that middle stripe. And then we're going to put the next one in, skipping 1 and coming back tight and low with this tinsel tie 1, 2 times. I'm going to skip that one and go to this one. Curl side up. The clip's hitchhiking. That's okay. We need it. 4 rolls. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anything fruit is really popular this year in wreath making, as well as bees, butterflies, and ladybugs. And lemons, again. 1, 2, 3, 4. This reminded me of growing up back home in Southern California. I live in southwest Nebraska now, in a cute little town named Sydney. But we were surrounded by orange groves when I was growing up, just absolutely surrounded. It was neat. When we first moved to town, the town's name is Corona. I'm skipping one and going to the next one. And Interstate 15 was not complete at that point, so the off-ramp to where we lived was the end of the line as far as the interstate, and just 1, 2, 3, 4. It just wasn't there. You had to take, I think it was called the 385, 395. Somebody can speak up and remind me. I can't remember anymore. That was in 1972 when I was 7 years old. But unfortunately, gradually, the orange groves went away and more growth came when all the roads in the interstate were finished. It made things a lot easier if you wanted to go to San Diego, that's for sure. And ultimately, I did end up in San Diego, another beautiful town. So curl side up. 4 rolls. 1, 2, 3, 4. At least 3, up to 5. But the more you roll it, the less you have to ruffle. So keep that in mind. So if you still want 5 rolls or more, you might want to cut the mesh a few inches longer. But in this particular one, I'm going back in between now. I did 20-inch ruffles. Going back in between them now, and I'm going to set that up so they stand up at attention. So those are done. I'm going to do this one now. And I try to do the bottom first and then the top. Some people do the top first and then the bottom last. It's personal preference. I try to do one complete layer before I go to the next, so I'm not running over the other product and fraying the mesh and, oh, excuse me, fraying the ribbon. The less you touch any of this stuff, the better it holds up. This is a much nicer mesh than some, there's all sorts of different meshes. I like this because it's got a pattern on it and it's thicker, so you're less likely to be able to see through it. And it's nice and bright. It plays off of all the colors except for the black and white in the sign. And then that is going to reflect in the ribbon for the bows, and I'll go over that when we get to the bow. Okay, this is the last one for this level. The bottom layer. Did too many. Also, keep in mind See how this has the pattern on it? It's yellow on both sides. Sometimes it's not. So keep that in mind when you're placing it into your wreath form. Because you might put it in and then realize after you've made it, you've got two that are yellow on the outside and one with orange on the outside, and you see it. Most people won't, but we are the most critical of our own product, I would hazard to say. You're going to see it. So if it bothers you, go back and turn it before you put your ribbon in. So tight and low a couple times, 1 or 2 times. These are very long on a 10-inch wreath form, so I can do 2 and not worry about not having enough for the ribbon. So now we're going to put in the ribbon tails for this layer, which I pre-cut and made the bundles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the bottom. Okay, so I've chosen to put this designer double-sided ribbon. I love it. I don't know if they make it anymore, so whoever gets this wreath is going to be probably the last person to get this ribbon from me on their product, on their creation. So I'm going to put the orange on top, then the yellow, and then the black and white plaid, which matches the black and white plaid on the sign, okay? So I've creased it in the center. So I place it in the wreath right on the bottom layer. I'm going to do an inverted V so that as much of my ribbon is facing the outside of the wreath as possible, and tying this up till it's almost gone, and then tucking it into the frame. Some people cut it, sometimes I cut it. It just depends. I'm going to cut it today. At least give it a 1-inch stub. Achoo! This is allergy season. Achoo! Can you tell? Okay. So sometimes you get these little bubbles at the top from gathering the ribbon. Not a big deal. Just grab your ribbon, push up the bubbles, and then place your ribbon. On the bottom layer of most of my wreaths, I like to mirror image the ribbon. So I had the orange down on this side, so I'm going to have the orange up on this side, especially since this is such luscious ribbon. Again, I'm going to go back to doing every other. The design in the oranges and in the plaid, they are not directional, meaning there's not product where it only faces one direction. So you don't have to worry about how you put them in the wreath. It'll look the same all the way around. I'm going to do 4 or 5 times, cut that excess off. I still leave enough that if for some reason I have to mess with the wreath and pull it apart, I certainly hope not, but if for some reason I have to, I still have some room to work with. It's always personal choice. Okay, put that out. This one, like I said, is going into my shop for purchase only. This will be the one and only because I can't remember where I got the sign, and I don't think that they make them anymore unless somebody tells me otherwise. And the same thing with this orange themed ribbon. I had thought about turning it around on the twist ties, on the tinsel ties, so that this side was up, but it's designer ribbon. I want to see everything that they're paying for. So let's do that. Get that out. The reason we're making sure it's flared and facing the outside of the wreath is because the top layer is going to hide a little bit of the ribbon and the mechanics up here where the tinsel ties are. Okay. Here. I sure am excited about this one. But yeah, it totally reminds me of back home. And if anybody back home's watching, I still have my moments where I miss it. Especially the old days when we used to go in the orange groves and we'd hear a noise and get scared and running out thinking the boogeyman was there. We were small. We didn't know any better. And sometimes our friends would hide back there. And always being afraid if we stole an orange, we were going to go to jail. I can honestly say I never stole any oranges. Other people, I know nothing. I know nothing. Okay, so now we're going to go back and do the ones in between. Get that gathered at the center. Oh, I forgot to make my V. Getting excited here. Slow down. Okay. All right. Now there's hardly any orange groves back home in Corona. Used to have a sun-kissed plant in town with the whistle every day. You always knew what time of the day it was. Yep. A lot of avocados there as well. My eyelash does not belong there. Okay, so, all right, I've got 2 more to go on this layer, right? Yep. Okay. Let's see. These were cut at 12 inches in length, and they're the orange ribbon and the black and the black and white plaid are 2.5 inch wide ribbon, and then the yellow solid color in the center is 1.5 inches in width. They're all 12 inches long. You could do 13, but I find that it's a bit too much length on the ribbon for the Pixie size wreath. But it's your choice if you're making your own, exactly what you want to do. Okay, what's left? We have one more on this layer, and then we'll go in and put the mesh in on the top layer. Throughout my different YouTube video descriptions, I post where you can purchase my finished product as well as kits in my Etsy shop. I do bows as well. Also, I will be adding affiliate links as well. That means I get a little bit of a spiff for shops I buy my product from to make my creations. That way, if you want to go take a look at what they have, if you do buy something, that's kind of like a little thank you to me for referring you to their shop. I have several shops that I spend a lot of my money in. Deco Exchange, the Wreath Shop, Trendy Tree, and then of course Craft Outlet. There's all sorts of options out there. So now we're going to bring these up and we're going to put them horizontal to us because this mesh will go in there horizontally. Okay, you go over there. All right, we're going to curl that edge 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try to be consistent. But yeah, this really protects the cut edge so it's hidden. You don't have to do it this way. This is just one of my favorite styles of mesh ruffles. It always makes it easier when you have mesh with a pattern because then you're not having to try to find the center. It's not as hard to find the center, I should say. Okay. Skip the next one and go to that. There should be 5 on this layer. And because it has uneven numbers of ties on each layer, it's pretty difficult to do multiple styles of bundles. All of these bundles have exactly the same ribbon in it, where if I have a wreath frame that has an even number of twist ties on each layer, like 10 and 8, you can do 2 different style of ribbon bundles. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. So keep that in mind. I mean, you can do 2 different styles even if it's on an uneven number of wreath tinsel ties. You're just going to have 2 that are exactly the same next to them. And when I get in that position where I have no choice but to do that because of a customers request and what stock I have in hand. I put my bow over there. Then nobody can see it except for me. So remember, we're keeping this rolls curled side up. We're on a storm door wreath, you have it curled side down. And the curls tend to get a little tighter as you get further into the roll of mesh that you're cutting. On the outside, the rolls are about this round. So I use the bigger, rounder rolls on my lower layer on my wreath because they stay out. They're not as compacted. And then on my top, right under the signs, I use the tighter. See how small that is? So, okay, let's keep, got one to go. We're making sure they're all fluffed up against each other. Did I short myself? I did. Did I? Oh no. Well, I can fix this later. This doesn't stop it from being. Oh no, I don't. It's over there. Hello. Crisis averted, right? Just like, what did I do? That was the ruffle I put in to figure out what I wanted to use in this wreath, to make sure that everything matched. I don't usually make one before I make the tutorial. So I like to at least try to make sure everything matches. The last thing I want is to build a wreath and then it's just ugly. It's happened. I've rebuilt wreaths now and then. I had some rain boots that I made a centerpiece. Came in one of my monthly supply boxes I have a subscription to. But nobody bought it as a centerpiece. So I split the rain boots in half and made two different rainbow wreaths. No, rain boot. This time we're not going to make that inverted V because it's the top layer. And I sold one of their two wreaths immediately. I did one with this sign on it that said hi on a grapevine. And then I did one with a cute little metal sign, Pix, sticking out of the rain boot in through the florals. That's the one I sold first. I thought it would be the other way around. It just goes to show it's not what you like that sells, it's what others like. So it's always important to do things that are not necessarily something that you would like. There are a lot of choices for a lot of people. Sky's the limit. Just look at the amount of ribbon that's available out there, or don't if you're smart. We won't talk about my ribbon collection. Maybe someday I'll do a video of the room and show you so you can go, oh my god, you're out of control. It's not an addiction, I swear. Wink, wink. So I'm going to tuck this under. I'm not going to cut it on the top. I'm just going to tuck it up under everything. You'll never know. So on this level, the orange is going to go out on both sides. I want people to see that ribbon. That's typically the pattern I make when I make most of my wreaths. Bottom layer, I do every other. I just love how bright this is. We're coming off of the winter months. Here in southwest Nebraska, we're still getting intermittent snow, which is what it is. But like today is a beautiful day that I should be outside in. But you know, life. I'm going to stand up because I feel like I'm struggling. You do what makes it most comfortable for you when you're making products like this. Don't contort yourself. Move around. It's also good to move around too. You don't want to sit for too long or stand for too long. At least that's how I feel. To each their own, right? See how fluffy this is? I love it. Okay, put that under there, and then under there. And cut a piece of fray off that's sticking out of one of the ruffles. Okay. Okay. Now after this, we're going to get the sign on. We've got one more of these. Don't worry, we'll go back and fluff everything out better at the end. Some more frays inside, but you can still see it if it's hanging up and you're walking by it on the side, so we don't want it to be there. No fray. No fray zone. All right, so now the next step is going to be to attach the sign, I believe. Let me take a look after I get this done. This orange ribbon with the oranges on it is so thick because it's double layer. It's made by a company called Silk. They make the truly designer, one of the companies that make the designer ribbon. Okay, see, so that's on top. So I want that down at the bottom. That'll be the center on the top. So my sign is going to go here because my bow is going to go here. So I'm going to put my sign in. I didn't bring in the little, what do you call it, that I use. I have a very long plastic needle that I use to put pipe cleaners through the mesh so I'm not struggling. But today is not the day because I don't have one here. So we do it old school, which is as patiently as you can, stuffing the pipe cleaner through the mesh, trying not to go through some ribbon because it ain't going to go through the ribbon, especially not this designer ribbon. Okay, we got this. Come on, come on. Oh, I feel it. Look at that. If it gets cut, if it gets stuck on a thread, it just doesn't want to come through. Yeah, that's what happened. Cut that thread off from the mesh. Because like I said, there is fabric in that mesh. Okay. So then down here, I'm going to go over this. And here, I think. I didn't have to have two tails come out of the pipe cleaners, but I did it anyway. So then I'm just gonna wrap it around the frame, not too tight, and I'll go back and finish winding this up when I'm sure that's where I want it. So those go there. There should be another pipe cleaner side, there it is. And that needs to go on the other side. This will all be hidden. Okay. Tighten that up a little. Not too much because you don't want it to sink totally down into the wreath. All right. Because then the sign will start to bow. I'm going to position my ribbon how I want it. Holding the sign. Right. Fluff it up more later. And now we're going to use the glue gun to attach this in here. I'm going to put this, these, yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this down in here. I might have to cut some of it off. We'll see in just a minute. Yeah, I think that's probably what I'm going to do. Fold these forward a little bit so you're seeing them on the front and they're not facing the side. Okay, I'm going to start with the orange and try not to burn myself. Because if I can, I will. We put it in there and we wiggle it around a little bit so it doesn't go anywhere. Put those daisies right there. Get rid of those glue strings. Then we're going to take that at the top. Wiggle it around a little bit so it attaches itself to everything around it. Okay, so now we're going to make the bow that goes here. So these are all of our choices. So it looks like I'm doing, I think I'm going to get rid of that 7 white ribbon. Yeah, I think so. Now, let's get rid of that. And I think that's the order we're going to use. Okay. So now, unplug the glue gun and I'll burn the house down. That's another good thing. Okay. Clean up my mess. Trying to clean as we go. The right thing to do. Alright, that's trash too. I need 1 to 2 pipe cleaners and a zip tie for this. Let's see. I don't need that anymore. Alright, I don't need that anymore. So today I brought another bow maker. It's called the Bodabra. There are many bow makers out there. This is one of my first ones before I stopped being intimidated by some of the bigger ones. The way we're going to create this wreath bow is from the bottom to the top. And since I have the cutting mat, I have all the different measurements that I'm going to need for working on this. So let's get started. My favorite wreath bow maker is this one. You can probably see why, because it has a place to hold your spool of ribbon at the end. These 2 pegs are the same thing as this. So I'm going to use it just for the spool holder so I'm not struggling and look like a dope. Okay, so I'm not going to cut the edges of the ribbon yet till we get it on the wreath. I usually, with this Pixie style wreath, as I start off with tails that are 12 inches and then I cut off the excess. I'm gathering the ribbon so the finished side is up on the tail and then I'm turning the finished side down on the loop I'm going to make, okay? So I'm going to make a 5.5 inch loop, okay? So this is at 18. 5.5 would be 23.5, right? 5, 5, 5. 5.5, 5. I'm thinking of the length of the loops. So 5.5, 5.5, 5. 4.5, 4.5, 4. Okay, got it. I'm all right. So 23.5 is right there on the mat. I'm pushing it in and twisting it on the opposite side of the center So I've now created a 5.5 inch loop on that side. So now my ribbon is finished side facing the table on this side. Always give yourself some slack in the ribbon so that you can work with it without struggling. So now over here, 5.5 inches from 18 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13.5, or 12.5. So that's right here. You could eyeball it. I've seen other companies attach it to a piece of wood and put the inches on it, this bow maker. But I just found a different kind. So this is the second and the last loop. So we are not twisting the ribbon on this side. We are done. So we're just going to cut it the same length as the tail on the other side. Let's see. Here's the loop. Put this back in there. Get this out of the way because I'm not using it again. Okay. So the next one we're using is the 2.5 inch. So that's 2.5 inch orange. This is 2.5 inch plaid. I'm making the tails the same size on this one. I'm twisting it at 12 inches. Putting the twist in the center of the Bodradra. I've got my tails. I guess I didn't make it the same size. 12. Where's 12? Right here. Okay, so there's that. Twist in the center. Bring that tail down out of the way. And we're going to make 2 loops the same size as the orange. So now we have the orange to guide our way. I usually put my finger in the loop. I don't like to press down on the ribbon below because it can cause a crease and we don't want creases. Push it down, twist it on the other side so that the twist ends up in the center between these 2 pieces of the bow maker. This is a painted ribbon, so it acts like it's thick ribbon. So it's a little tougher to deal with than a traditional royal linen. Get that second loop, and remember that's our last loop, so we are not twisting the ribbon. Okay? I'll be honest, this is not even remotely close to my favorite ribbon. I usually use it to hold mesh that I've made woodland ruffles with, so that I can make several ahead and just pop them out quickly. This was one of the original bow makers that I'm aware of, but if you like it, more power to you. Alright, so here comes this luscious ribbon. In case you want to check to see if they still make it, its color is called orange. The item number is RA899-52. It's 2.5 inches by 10 yards. So I was able to get, and this is going to be the same as the black on the tail. I was able to get 2 wreaths now. So this is the second wreath out of this roll. So even though it's designer ribbon and it's a whole lot more expensive than your everyday stuff, I was able to spread it out in multiple projects, so it's worth the investment for sure. So I'm going to make this about 1 inch smaller. So instead of 5.5, it's just about 5 inches. And it's much more difficult to twist because it is so incredibly thick, but that's okay. Looks like I might actually have a little left over afterwards. Whew. Don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I could probably use it in a lantern swag. That'd be a good thing for it. Make an orange lantern swag. I know I have orange picks coming. That was the last one I had in stock that we're using on this one. Okay, so thick. Alright, let's try to get that the same length. Oh, that feels just so good to a wreath maker to cut through all that ribbon. Just feels good. I have quite a bit left. I made that work really well. I used it on a grapevine wreath with no sign. so pretty. If you're interested, it is still in my shop. I have quite a bit left. Yay! Alright. So at this point, I'm going to position my tails a little bit. I'm going to put, since the plaid was on the outside on that one, I'm going to flip it on this one. And then I'm going to bring this one out here and this one down here. So then on the other side, I'm going to do it opposite. And I'll do that a lot more once I get it into the zip ties and set. And then the wreath. Okay, so now we're going to move down to the 1.5 inch ribbon. You try to make sure you don't have the same colors directly on top of each other, or especially not the same patterns, because it kind of hides the prettiness of it all. This I'm going to make long pigtails, so it's going to be an 16 inch. This is going to be a 16-inch tail. And then I'm going to twist it so that the finished side is up on the tail and the finished side is down on the loop side. And then I'm going to take it down another 1/2 inch to 1 inch, twist it, and make another loop. Remember, since this is the last loop, we are not twisting it. I don't like. Now this spreads out as you make your loops. The more ribbon you get in it, it spreads out a little bit more. Now we're going to go back to the coordinating 1.5 inch in the black plaid. So I'm going to put the yellow where the black plaid is. So I don't have a solid colored ribbon over a solid colored ribbon. Hopefully that makes sense. Till it gets in the zip tie or a pipe cleaner, it will still give you fits and not stay where you want it to. You just have to really monitor it. I made these as long as the yellow because I want more curly tails on this. This is also going to be the same size loop as the yellow. Get that. Why I like the Deluxe Easy Bow Maker better is it has the markings on the base. So it's 8 inches on each side. It's a less of a struggle to make sure your loops are matching. But that's just me. For some people, it's easy peasy on this. Some people, that's all they know, so they think it's great. And there is nothing wrong with that. Okay, get in there. I have not used this as a bow maker in so long, I'll be completely honest. So if it looks like I'm struggling, I am. So this should be here, that should be there. Okay. And then in the final ribbon, which is a 1.5 inch orange only, I'm going to make a single loop that's 3 inches in length because it's going to turn into a center loop to hide the zip tie. Ow! Put that needle all the way through. Again, another way to hide the mechanics is having a single loop in the center. I'm making these long too because I really like the spirals. What can I say? I love them. So this is going to be a 3 inch loop, which is usually 2 of my fingers, 2 to 3 of my fingers. So there's that. I know Bodabra makes some string or whatever you want to call it that fits between these. But I've never really learned how to do that. I went to the really hard board. I don't think I'll ever show that to you because it is very intimidating. Okay, I'm just going to take it out of the Bodabra. and pinch it between my thumb and forefinger really tight and take that zip tie upside down on the bow. Get that in there. And use my needle nose to tighten it up, but not all the way because I got to be able to get the pipe cleaner in and move it around to the back. And I'm going to do a no-no because this has got some serious thickness to it and that really thick ribbon in there. I'm going to take my pipe cleaner and put it behind. This is how I'm going to feed the bow through. I'm okay. I'm going to feed the bow through the mesh. Okay, so I do that so that I can flip it and position everything. So I'm going to turn that single loop at the top that way. And then I'm going to bring all of my tails down and out of the way so I can work with the loops. Because they need to be down there anyway. There are also bow fluff boxes that I will use in the future in some of my videos to show you. They are designed to hold your bow like a third hand so you're not struggling. This one needs to go up, this one needs to go down, then this one up, this one down. Down here the orange is down, the black is up. On this side the orange is up and the black is down. So the rest of the fluffing will go on in the wreath. I'm going to tighten the zip tie all the way and then I'm going to take the wire cutters and cut the excess off of the zip tie, and I'll stand up again. This ribbon out of the way. I suppose we could have done the white on the top, but I think there's enough presence of white in the bow that we didn't need to add more. Okay, so all this stuff out of the way. And bring our wreath back over and decide on placement. I'm going to go right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed the pipe cleaners through the mesh right about here. So that's basically above the ribbon tails down there. But I'm going to go through the mesh because I want it to go through the mesh and around the metal frame on the back so I can secure it there so it doesn't move around. You want it secure but not buried in the wreath. And by doing it this way, the mesh acts like a bed for the bow. I'm going to have to turn the bow once I get it on. So see, I'm putting it through. I'm going to give it some tension. Get a hold of it, but not terrible now. I'll go back when I'm done and I'll finish tying this up and wrapping the pipe. I'll do it now. Wrap it around the frame, making sure the end of the pipe cleaner is facing down into the wreath so that there's no chance of it scratching a door. This is an elevated wreath frame, so the likelihood of it is much lower because I put it on the innermost ring, which is the furthest away from the door. So there's that too. Cutting a little of the extra off because we don't need all of it. Push that down. That way I can spend the rest of the time fluffing the ribbon on the bows, on the ribbon tails one more time around. Okay. All right, let's turn this back over. And it's facing the side, so we're going to take these and twist the whole of the bow this way Making sure not to mash it up underneath. Okay, so get these positioned and give them a good solid pull. Don't be afraid of it. It's not going anywhere. Get all the wrinkles and stuff out. Get all this stuff down here. This is the top, so it should be above the plaid. Okay. But not hiding the sign. You don't want to hide the sign. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to go back and fix the ribbon in the bow. Getting them placed, fluffing them out. All right, work with me here. Okay. All right, so I don't want to cover up the words, so I'm going to go and pull it out a little bit more. Hold the sign so it's not. All right, so now I'm going to prep all of the ribbon tails by putting a dovetail in the end, which is the same as we have on the ribbon tails. We're going to cut those on everything, and these are going to curl, so I'm going to go ahead and curl them and get them out of the way so that I can work on the other ribbon. And then when I'm done, I'll pull them out how I want them to be swirled. Just run your fingers over the wire edge to get that nice and smooth. If you ever have ribbon that's really wrinkled, take a very thin hair straightener and run it quickly over the ribbon when it's heated, just long enough to pull out the creases and stuff. So see how I did that? Put it back up there, out of the way so I can do the other ribbon. Okay. So we did those three. The next one would have been this one. This beautiful designer ribbon. Just sounds so good when it cuts. If you know, you know. Get all these cut. So then on this side, I had this on the inside. You can also make each tail a different length too if you want to mix it up that way as well. And you know, I'm going to make a change. See how I have this orange next to that? I'm going to flip it on both sides so the black is next to the orange loop. And then this one, the orange is next to the black loop. Does that make sense? I hope it does. All right, let's clean up our mess. Get all this stuff out of the way that we don't need here. Get the bow makers out of the way. That doesn't go there. There, okay. Get our trash. Since I'm not at my home and I'm at the Jensen Art Studio, I don't have a trash can directly in front of me. I suppose I could bring one. If you have a cutting mat like this and it gets dirty, Swiffer hand dusters are perfect to get all the stuff that you can't get off and into a trash can so that you don't cut your fingers, because I've done that. I've had wire in my fingers. It's one of the hazards of the trade. Put that back there. All right, let's see. Let's just make sure everything looks good. It's not hanging everywhere. Oh, good. Fluffy. This is a fluffy wreath, and this is more of a mid-size wreath too. It is, this is 21, between 20 and 21 inches this way. Same thing the other way, but it's far deeper than a stormer wreath with the bows. Yeah, that's like 9 to 10 inches. All right, let me pull these all out. Got little curly cues. Okay, isn't that pretty? That one's up there. That one's in there. All right. And there you have it. Okay, well, I want to thank you again for following along with the tutorial with me. I hope you learned something new and enjoyed the process. If you would be so kind as to follow me on my Facebook page, you get notifications for everything I'm doing, any new product I'm putting out. Plus, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll also get messages to let you know when I have new content in there. I appreciate the fact that you've taken a little time out of your day to spend with me while I do this, and I hope you've had a good time as well as I have. Enjoy and thank you, and have a great day.